Stephen A. Smith is a sports analyst that actually featured on Joe Budden's podcast. Joe Budden knows him personally, and so I guess there's some type of like justification or adequacy as to why Stephen A. Smith said what he said, or at least commented on the situation between Drake and Joe Budden. But when you think of Stephen A. Smith, you don't think music, you think sports, you think ESPN, you think First Take, you think receding hairline. That's what you think of when you think of Stephen A. Smith. However, Stephen A. Smith felt the need to comment on Joe Budden and Drake's situation.
This was a hard one for me because, number one, I got a lot of love for Drake, the artist. I think he's sensational. I'm a huge fan of Drake's. And I love his personality as well. He's incredibly talented. I loved seeing him host the ESPYs years ago. I love seeing him come on First Take. I love seeing him at the Toronto Raptors games, rooting on his team, all of that stuff. Drake is the real one. Drake is special, no doubt. But I got a lot of respect for Joe Budden. Now, he's no Drake when it comes to, success in the music industry. Drake's a billionaire. We get that. But when you look at Joe Budden, whatever way you can make it, you make it. And sometimes there's just certain things that you don't want to do. Sometimes you find your calling in different other areas, in different other arenas. And I get all of that. I will say this, though. If you Joe Budden, and that's the lane you used to be in, and you see somebody as successful as Drake, it's not really much to critique there. Like saying that he's rapping and writing for the kids. Well, who the hell is Taylor Swift doing it for? How'd she make $6 billion on tour? I'll tell you how, because little kids know every lyric of every song. And that's why. Anybody in today's generation, and this is where Joe Budden lost me. I'm not getting into him and Drake. I want them to come together peacefully and not be enemies. Okay? That's what I want. But I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I swear to God, I'm telling y'all right now, there's some cats in my industry. Oh, I'm itching. It's taking everybody. I'm scratching, preventing myself from going at their asses. Really, I am. Because I'm up here in this industry. And I don't need to go down there. But I'm tempted because that's where I'm from. And I know that lane. And I really, really, really want to. I really do. But then I got loved ones who advise me and people who look up to me, who expect better from me. And they be like, Stephen A., don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And so I contain myself. But trust you me, oh yeah, I understand exactly where Drake was coming from because Drake is addressing somebody who used to do what he's doing.
I was very surprised at that. I was thoroughly surprised at that.
That's a weird pause moment right there.
That's all.
There's nuance.
Okay, yeah, sure.
There's nuance there, right? And we can continue afterwards.
No,
But there's definitely nuance there. And I'm going to break it down for you and let me know how you feel about this.
for sure.
We have had conversations like this. Family, friends tell me, hey, it's probably best you should do it this way in terms of content, making music. And then I think to myself, well, y'all haven't made as much money as I made doing it the way that I've done it. So, like, who are y'all to tell me how to do it, right? Does that mean that there's no credibility towards what y'all saying? Not necessarily. Look at it from your standpoint. You're an engineer. A nigga that got 2 months, 3 months of engineering experience listens to a mix of yours and says, it's terrible. Or, it's not really that good. You probably should compress a little bit more here. EQ a little bit more here. I don't really like how you did that. As a matter of fact, a few of your mixes, I can't really rock with like that. You gonna look at this nigga like, nigga, are you an engineer? Nigga, are you Dolby certified, nigga? Nigga, how many artists have you mixed? How many artists have you mastered? How many sessions have you hosted? I got thousands, hundreds and thousands of sessions under my belt. Who the fuck are you to tell me what the fuck? So, I get it from that standpoint. I definitely get it from that standpoint. However, I completely understand that I might be more successful than somebody else. But if somebody is saying something for the betterment of that artist, based off of how they feel, whatever their opinion might be, however they sculpted, however they molded, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because now you're saying, okay, because you're not as experienced as I am, you can't say shit. Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to listen to what you got to say. You're a peon to me.
Yeah.
You're little. You small. You wanted to hear. I ain't trying to listen to what you... Did you make as much money as I did? Did you do as much as I did? Are you as accomplished as I am in the profession that I'm... No, you're not. Stay your ass down there. We ain't trying to listen to what you got to say. I think that is not it. I don't think that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to listen. Now, I think it's up to that person to decide of whether or not they're going to listen to that information or listen to that critique and then implement it and then go forward. However, I don't necessarily think because you are not as accomplished as somebody else that you can't speak or have any type of criticism towards what somebody has to say about what you did.
Right.
So I was, and me personally, I like Stephen A. Smith. I think he's dope. I think he's a dope commentator. I think he's a dope analyst. Very entertaining, very funny, all of that shit, witty, all of that shit. I rock with bro.
Yeah.
But I also think he's extremely arrogant. And so when I hear that, it's like, bro, you can't, like, I get what you're saying, but nigga, at the end of the day, people are going to be critical of people regardless. Drake is a multi-billion, well, I don't know if he's a multi-billionaire, but he's a billionaire. He is the biggest artist outside of Taylor Swift and Bad Bunny known to man. People are going to be critical of what he has to say.
Yeah.
Period.
Agreed.
How do you feel?
A few things.
Okay.
I definitely think that opinions are not as unique as we think they are. Whatever I'm thinking, somebody else is probably thinking it. So if I think something about something, there are others who think the same thing. And maybe my one opinion on Drake, for example, doesn't matter, but maybe there's 500 people who think the same thing, and maybe collectively that opinion might matter a little bit. So yeah, maybe we all 500 of us are nowhere near as successful as you, because who is? That means really not many artists in general. It could be, I don't know, it could be J. Cole. J. Cole can't tell you nothing because you're Drake and he's J. Cole. Like, but come on now, it's J. Cole. Like,
Right. Very valid.
So it's like you said, there's a lot of nuance there. And it's no telling what just the opinion might do. Like, just even being open, because I do agree that it's up to the person to make the decision on whether to use this information or not. That's totally all it is, really. Like, just hear it out, but you have to be strong enough to not let that affect you, even if Joe Budden is saying, or whoever is saying something negative about you. And maybe because there is the thing where people might put their fears on you or their doubts on you, and now you start having doubts and you start
projecting.
having fears. Yeah,
correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
But that's kind of just what comes with doing something like this. I do think, and even Stephen A. Smith, I agree, like, this is showing a side of Drake that I would assume is there, but this also makes me question what's going on. Like, can his team tell him anything? Like, who can tell you anything?
Like, who's around him? Does he have a whole bunch of
Yeah.
yes men around him, or does he have anybody that's gonna tell him, hey bro, this probably ain't it?
I mean, I feel like probably 40 maybe, or somebody, certain people probably can, but for the most part, it's like, is that why we're getting this version of Drake that we're getting musically, artistically? Like, he's still doing good.
Yeah.
He's still doing better than everybody else for the most part. But it's like, we have heard better Drake.
And then y'all, let's see what Stephen A. has to say for the remainder here, and then we'll comment on it.
All I'll say about that part, and that's for Joe Budden and Drake to handle. But as it pertains specifically to Joe Budden's claims about him making music for kids or whatever, it's like, who cares that he's 36 going on 37? Who cares that the music is for a younger generation? who he's hooking up with and how old they are, as long as they're consenting adults, is none of our business. So I'm not going there, Joe Budden. But I will say this. No matter how old we are in this day and age, the targeted demographic is always younger folks. 25 to 49 demographic is very, very appealing in the world of advertising. But nobody is more coveted than the 18 to 34 demographic. And anybody who gravitates and ingratiates themselves to that demo, usually it translates into success. So the fact that Drake is in his late 30s and is still appealing to those younger souls, props to him. Props to him. Ain't nothing to throw any shade on about that. That's just smart business. And if you're going to put in work, why not be a businessman or a woman while you're doing it? Why not make that money? Joe Budden's got a very successful podcast. I'm quite sure it ain't successful just because he goes in front of the microphone and speaks, and that's it. Joe Budden knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to ingratiating himself to an audience in the world of podcasting.
And he also appeals to the younger generation. When I first started listening to Joe Budden, I started listening to Joe Budden at 22, 23 years old.
Hey, Stephen A. just dropped the bar right there. Because he doing the same shit. That nigga could really be talking about finances and banking and investing in real estate. I don't know, maybe he is.
He's not.
Okay. Like, he could be talking about some older topics. But I've listened to a few
He's
of
talking
his
about
podcasts.
shit that we would fuck with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because we definitely fall in that demographic of 18 to 34.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. Now, here's
That's
the thing.
interesting.
Even though I disagree with Joe's take, that doesn't make it less credible. That doesn't make it less valid. He has every right to say what he wants to say. You know, even though he's not as successful as Drake, that's fine. You can say what you want to say. I disagree with it, vehemently disagree with it, but that doesn't take any merit away from what he said.
Yeah.
People agree with Joe.
Yeah.
A lot of people agree with Joe.
Even from the aspect of, if you think about it, what part of that could be useful? Drake about to turn 37. There's probably somebody who's just as old as Drake who grew up just listening to him along his journey. You know what I'm saying? So they probably might be getting to that age like, damn, I love Drake, but like some of this stuff isn't resonating with me anymore. So it's like maybe he could make a song or two for that demographic, just for them people.
That's fine.
So there's maybe some validity that is useful there. But I feel what you're saying. And Stephen A. got a little bar in there, though. That's because I didn't even think about how Joe is basically doing the same thing as Drake. It's just in the podcast lane.
Just in the podcast world, for real.
That's
For real.
interesting.
It literally, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And he's older than Drake.
Yeah, no, that nigga Joe's like 45 or some 46. He might be 50. He might be coming on 50.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, come on, bruh. You know? So, no, Stephen A. definitely had a bar in there. I disagree with Stephen A. when he comes down to, you know, you smaller than me. You a peon. You can't tell me this, is that, and the third. Nah, bruh. Just because somebody is lesser than you or is not as accomplished as you doesn't mean that you can minimize what their critique is.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, bro. Now, you could take what you could take from it based off of your experience and then use it or implement it in the way that you want to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever they're saying is just null and void and you could just push that shit to the side and they're just peons and fuck them. No, it don't work that way. It does not work that way, bro. Because if that was the case, nigga, people will look at you and think that you're just full of yourself, you on your high horse and nobody could tell you shit, and that's the worst type of human being to be, I think. Personally. That's the worst type of human being to be.
You could be a murderer. But that's a pretty bad.
Yeah. Murderer is pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's pretty bad too, though.
Yeah.
They're both bad.
Factual.
But I feel what you're saying.
But, that's just, I don't know, that's just my take on it, man. I'm very surprised that as Stephen is saying the things that he said. But I mean, there's some validity to what he said, but then there's also like, yo, what the fuck? Like, damn. But that's just where I'm at, man. Those are my lasting thoughts. You got anything to say? Lasting thoughts?
Well, the only thing is, I'm a little surprised too, but not that much.
Okay.
Because when people get really successful, I think that Well, I don't want to say like, not even goes to your head, but it's like it's natural.
Yeah.
Almost.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I do. I get it.
Yeah. So
I get it.
That's really like I'm surprised that he said this on air.
Yeah.
But I'm not at the same time.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Like it makes sense. Like even it makes sense for Drake to feel the way he feels. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't agree with it, I understand why he would feel that way.
Yeah.
And why he would believe that. I understand why he would feel that way and why he would believe this. I don't agree, but I get it.
Yeah.